I'm Hannah. I've been bouldering for over 10 years now, but I spent the last 60 days of my life training for sport climbing to see if I could join the top 10% of sport climbers.
What do you think my odds are?
I'll explain. You see, I've loved climbing for over 10 years now, but there's always been a problem with my climbing, and it's that I'm terrified of sport climbing, specifically falling while sport climbing, but it's always felt like it's held me back from truly experiencing everything that climbing has to offer. So in the beginning, this video was intended to be a video about sport climbing progression. It was supposed to be a video about giving 100% to sport climbing in 60 days to see how far I could progress from my current outdoor lead grade of 6B to 7B. But in reality, it ended up being the story of something quite different. I reached out to my friends at Mammut to ask if they'd be interested in working with me on a project, and they said yes, they would. But what started out as a really simple idea for a YouTube video didn't quite go to plan, and I'm learning in climbing that things rarely do.
That is not going to happen.
But in November 2024, when this journey started, naivety prevailed, and as it turns out, I'd have to learn the hard way. The big goals don't always come easy.
Oh no!
So, why sport climbing? And that is a really good question, but basically last year was a bit of a challenging year for me personally and for my climbing. After 3 back-to-back injuries and a fair amount of being in the mental washing machine, I kind of reached this strange crossroads with climbing. I think I was feeling a little bit disillusioned with climbing, and waning motivation in climbing and just in life is normal. I think it's something that everyone experiences from time to time, but feeling distance from the passion and the hobby that I've built my life around and my entire career around affected more than just my climbing. It also had a pretty big impact on how I felt about everything. I was starting to wonder whether or not I could really call myself a climber still at all. So it was decided I would spend the rest of my year into this year training for sport climbing exclusively and culminate months of training in Greece with a trip to Leonidio, which is a sport climbing mecca. It's said that getting started is the hardest part of anything, but I'm not sure I agree. For me, setting out on my lead climbing journey was the easy part. I didn't know then what a can of worms I was about to open. It was what came after starting that proved the real challenge.
I feel like with any situation like this, the best way to start is with something that feels kind of comfortable. Yeah, it's fine so far. What I feel is fear and apprehension all rolled into one, and I think just after the first route, hopefully I'll settle into some kind of rhythm.
But in taking on a harder problem, I opened my eyes to the realities ahead. On these more challenging moves, everything felt different. I realised just how much my experience of sport climbing changed the moment that insecurity arrived. And after a few metres, I was out of my comfort zone.
It's a bit hard, isn't it? I think the difference between this one and the last one is I didn't feel at any point like I could fall on the last one. Whereas on this, I feel like I don't feel secure. I've never taken a lead fall in my life. No.
Over the next 4 weeks, I settled into a routine with my climbing sessions, following a training plan I'd devised in the Crimp Tap to focus on endurance and mobility. I'd head to the bouldering wall and do circuits and strength training, balancing a still grumbly back injury all the way, and I tried to get into a harness as much as possible to lead an auto belay.
The aim of this session is to get comfortable falling. That was definitely maybe the most out of my comfort zone that I've been. Let out a little mini Sport climbing training is in full swing. But today we have actually come to a bouldering wall, or actually a spray wall concept. We know that my head game needs a little bit of work. We've known that since the beginning of this process. My logic in moving away from like a rope setting and taking falls out of the equation is to build a little bit of confidence in the physical side of the challenge, which is also going to be super important, right? I want to be able to feel confident that I have good endurance and that I can stay on the wall for a decent amount of time.
A few weeks in, I was managing to blend trying harder routes with mental training and synchronization. And I started to have some more positive sessions, which was a relief because I had a session with an exciting guest in just a few days. In Manchester, I arranged to meet Olympian Erin McNiece, one of Britain's elite sport climbers, to find out whether her experience on the wall would help me to push my own limits, and ultimately, to answer one question.
What do you think my odds are of getting 7B in the next 6 weeks?
As I arrived, Erin was completing her first session of the day, a grueling pyramid of routes starting at 7B and ticking every grade up the scale to 8B and then back down. What I noticed immediately was her seeming state of calm, her focus on making move after move without looking too fazed by the possibility of falling.
Having just watched you up this 8B, like watching you climb, it doesn't look from the outside like fear is something that you deal with.
It's definitely something I've struggled with in the past. I remember as a kid I was terrified of it, and still growing up it's stayed with me definitely. I used to like dread lead sessions because it's just not fun if you're worried about it constantly. But I found that if I'm really enjoying a climb, or if I'm really excited to like work out the moves and get to the top, then it's just not something I think about. I'm just enjoying the process of it. And like this one, there's a few moves that are really low percentage, so high chance of you falling off, but it's just not what I'm thinking about because I'm just enjoying it basically.
Well, it's encouraging to know that even at that kind of like top level, fear is still something that's kind of there. Because I think for me, I've been like trying to think about it as fear is not something I want to get rid of. It's just something that I want to manage a bit better so that I can try really hard.
I felt armed with advice and like my physical training was going in the right direction, but I did have one grating concern. I'd set myself a goal of 7B, but in truth, I had no idea what 7B feels like to climb because I've never tried one.
I was thinking that I could try a 7B. Maybe we could try it together. And you could maybe give me a few tips, / let me know whether you think it's going to be a little bit of a reach for me.
Yeah.
Or not.
Yeah.
Does that sound okay?
Yeah, that sounds
cool.
good.
Right. Yeah? Yeah? Yeah.
So I selected a crimpy yet powerful looking overhang for Erin to help me out with. I've since found out that this route was a notorious sandbag of the set, but at the same time, an important part of the story because it was maybe the first time that I'd realised just how much I'd bitten off, truly. The first half of the route flowed on steep crimps, but felt, dare I say, not as bad as I was worried it would do, until the crux.
Oh, I see. Is this the bit where it gets hard?
This is the hardest bit.
So, okay. Well, I don't know what I'm going for.
I reckon go for the crimp.
With the heel on, do you reckon?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, I don't know if I'm that flexible, Erin.
You got it, come on.
Oh, fuck. Probably should have. You got me?
I think because it's an angle change, it's got to be like quite a swift movement. Yeah, you sort of get into this like donut one.
Yeah.
And then the move to the next volcano is quite hard, but then after that it's quite steady.
Like you come into the, did you drop into the like little pockety thing?
Yeah, drop in, and then I think I went up to the crimp maybe, and then the next move's a bit dynamic, but it's a good hold.
Okay. I can go around on that quite a lot. I think in my like training for leads so far, I've been like kind of still fairly within my comfort zone if you take like the like being above my clip out of the equation. Like each individual move I've been able to do, whereas that was kind of like the first time where I've been like, I don't think I can do the move. I guess it's kind of reassuring to know that you think it might be, that it's quite a hard move. I'll take that.
It's definitely a hard move because it gives you a jug just afterwards, I think, to recover a bit from it.
Yeah. Do you feel like the goal of 7B is realistic?
I don't think it's not realistic because you've had so much experience bouldering that realistically the individual moves will be okay.
Yeah.
I think you just have to find a 7B that really suits you and that you really want to get.
Yeah.
And that'll drive you to just like drill in the moves basically.
Yeah. And like, I think for me, a huge part of it's going to be building the confidence and feeling comfortable falling, getting past that hurdle. But thank you so much for being so generous with your time. It's fine.
So now we're 3-ish months into training for sport climbing, and I was feeling pretty good. Like, I had been really diligently following my plan. I was motivated for the first time in what felt like forever. I was feeling pretty good physically. I was within a grade or two of my grade goal indoors. I'd led my first 7A. I was trying 7A pluses. I felt good. So mentally I still felt scared of climbing, sport climbing. Between you and me, there wasn't a chance that I was going to climb 7B in Leonidio. But I'd spent 3 months training and the flights were booked, and in just a few days we would be heading to Greece. Arriving in Leonidio, it wouldn't have been possible to have felt anything other than excited to climb. This small town on the eastern coast of the Peloponnese is home to beautiful red limestone walls, friendly locals, world-famous aubergines, and over 2,000 sport climbing routes. Lesser known than its sibling Kalymnos, Leonidio offers equally beautiful and varied climbing, and a rustic charm that made it the perfect place to gauge my progress. Or so I hoped. For our first day of climbing, I pretty much knew that starting the trip off in a good headspace was going to be quite crucial. I picked out a welcoming roadside sector called Sabaton with a good spread of lower grade routes that I had on good authority were ideal for easing in. But the scenic location and sunshine were no match for how petrified I was on a rope. The climbing was vertical and technical.
I have a little bit of slack, Sam.
But the brave face I put on when I first tied in to try one of the short intermediate routes was definitely hiding the pressure that I felt.
But there's nothing to hold.
I had expected or hoped to cruise through. This was a warm-up, or so I told myself. But I spent over 15 minutes shuffling back and forth, trying to push myself past the trickier sections, and eventually back down.
Will you take me, Sam?
I was scared.
Yeah, I need to get like definitely more comfortable just with being on the rock at height. Like even now, I can feel that I'm like so unrelaxed.
As one untop route turned into several, I was insecure, tense, and the weight of my trip goal was honestly adding another reason to attack myself.
I don't feel good. Oh, I'm kind of wigged out, to be honest.
Internally, I was caught between trying to push myself forwards and acknowledging that I was too scared to do so.
I feel like at this point I feel like I know I'll try a 7B this trip. And I wasn't sure going into this session that I might leave it and be like, I'd be happy to climb a 6C this trip. Don't get me wrong, I'd be happy to climb a 6C this trip. I'd be happy to climb that this trip. And that'd be the only thing I climbed all trip, but...
So at the end of our first day at Sabaton, I'd gotten to the top of nothing and I'd panicked endlessly, more than I was expecting. Despite the beautiful views, the beautiful crag, the Greek sunshine, there was a bigger problem. I had enjoyed little of the actual climbing. I'd set myself this big goal to head out to Greece and reconnect to climbing, but I think at the end of the first day I felt further away than I had at any point during the challenge. One day of petrified climbing rolled into 3, and I returned to Sabaton telling myself that I'd put my demons to bed by finishing the routes I couldn't do before. But feelings I previously characterised as just being scared on the first day were mutating into an internal pressure I didn't know how to explain or resolve. Routes I tried previously somehow felt more scary now, even though my first successful red point provided a short-lived high.
Thank you. I think that needed to happen. I think I'm trying to quieten the ever so slight voice in the back of my mind that's like, you should have climbed that first go, or it shouldn't have been that hard, or you didn't need to be that scared.
At this point, my internal monologue was out of hand. I was having a really difficult time grappling with the things that I was telling myself, and when I picked out a slightly harder route to try and gauge whether or not I was perhaps being on easier slabs that was getting in my mind, things just got worse.
Oh, that's so frustrating. Is there a good bit beyond? Can you pull me up a little bit? No. Whoa, mate. I feel pretty gripped. I think I'm done actually. It's frustrating because I know that I haven't at any point, like I've tried so hard, but I haven't at any point like climbed well. I think probably not even that deep down. Every time I pull onto a climb, it's like bang or bust. Do you know what I mean? Like I either do it and I feel good, or I don't do it and I don't feel good. Like there's no in between. Getting to the top clean is like my measure of success. I think I spend a lot of my life with 2 warring voices. There's like one that's like, it's alright, you're just doing your best, and that's the best you can do. And then there's the other that's like, that's not worth anything and you need to be doing more. And that's always a juggle. And I think what draws me so much to climbing or experiences out of my comfort zone is that war, that tug of war between those 2 voices feels more on my own terms. I feel like I'm not a very good climber. And if climbing is the thing that makes me worthwhile, what do I do if I'm not a good climber?
You're a great climber.
But maybe also climbing is not the only thing that makes me worthwhile. Maybe that's why I need to get to the bottom of. I need to find other ways to feel like I'm
In the brief time between sunrise and the day beginning, Leonidio is a really peaceful place to do some soul searching. A saunter around town to grab a coffee gave me an opportunity to chat to Nathan about something that I've been realising.
For as much as the last few sessions have been really rough, I think they've been a really important step for me in recognising that my relationship with climbing generally, but like more specifically my goal for this trip, probably needs to be recalibrated for me to properly enjoy recognising that goal. The thing standing between me and feeling connected to climbing and feeling proud of myself is not getting to the top of a 7B. It's being able to accept myself wherever I am in my climbing performance. Over the next few days, I think the goal just needs to simplify.
Keep an eye on my feet around the rope. Now 4 days into our trip, a misty forecast took us to higher ground and a short steep approach to the imposing cave of Crash of the Titans. I had only one goal this day, to try and enjoy it, but the reality was actually far from that. I still felt really scared. Although I'd stopped taking everything quite so seriously, I still seemed fated to inch my way, terrified, up intermediate problems until it was time to leave Greece.
I'm so fucking pumped. Oh my god.
But that right there is when something kind of changed. Like, I had a bit of a breakthrough. After a fairly defeating morning at Crash of the Titans, I offered to belay our video editor Sam on this really steep, imposing 7A+. I couldn't not conflate its simple existence as kind of rubbing in my face the gulf between me and this big goal that I had set myself. So Sam and I paired off and started working this thing. I belayed Sam up it. I kind of got to grips with the moves by watching him. As fate would have it, this climb, despite me thinking that it had nothing to teach me, had everything to teach me, and it became my project. But let's not get it wrong, I was still really scared of the actual climbing. So this was by far the steepest thing that I tried to climb that trip, and I think in being steep, the falls, though they were still scary and I was scared of taking them and I felt super vulnerable, they felt less consequential because I wasn't on a slab anymore. But secondly, I think really early on in the projecting process, my mindset actually shifted in quite a tricky way from pure, I guess, like exploration and excitement of having made a bit of a breakthrough, what felt like a really significant breakthrough in my climbing, to hang on, I think I could actually do this route.
So the route kind of starts off with like a classic, like good holds, big moves section. And then it moves into like crimpier terrain, but I get on with them quite well because they're quite in-cut. Then after like some fairly sustained crimping, there's like a steeper section which moves through some pockets, and then you hit what I think is probably the crux. There's like 3 or 4 moves that make up quite a bouldery section at the top. I think it's the biggest link I've made yet, and it's also now every move on the boulder. On the route. Now I think the challenge is going to be not piling pressure onto the 7A+, now that I've tried it. Okay, so I can't, it's all like, I feel like there's such a huge part of me that thinks that today could be a Sunday, but then, or the closer I've been getting on Owl Flash, and the more I think that this could be like Red Point Day or even Sunday, I definitely notice that I feel pressure. I feel so nervous. Oh, it feels so much harder. Oh no! Oh no!
With only a couple of days to pull the project together, I was feeling hopeful, but some Red Point nerves quickly opened the door to doubt again. I felt like I was climbing well, but the crux moves felt harder than they had done on previous sessions, and once again I was piling the pressure on.
Yeah, I have a lot of doubt. I don't think it's...
Doubt is part of the process.
It just feels very far away, I think.
So this is a higher grade than you've ever done. So I think it's totally normal that you would feel founded doubt because you've never done anything this difficult before.
Luckily, I had some wise minds to call on.
Hi!
Hello mate, how's it going?
Yeah, good. How are you? Because I'd basically given up. I was like, this is just not going to happen. Like, I'm never going to be able to climb above my bolt. It's just not going to happen. And then kind of like accidentally found the project and was like, oh, hang on, what have I changed? It's because I wasn't going into it with any expectation at all, I think.
Yeah, that's so cool. Have you got to the point where you're enjoying it at all?
Yeah, and I thought that would never happen. I was scared, almost accidentally stumbled upon what happens when you just have no expectation at all.
And it sounds like you went through the process of being pretty brutal on yourself, and then as soon as you changed your expectation or just accepted this is what it is, that's when it started to shift. And I think that's the difference, and that was probably a similar thing in my journey, that I just acknowledge that it's okay that I'm afraid, and all of those nasty little things your brain picks up at.
Yeah.
As soon as I go with that and just try to enjoy climbing for the sake of enjoying climbing, no matter what the grade was,
Yeah.
that's to release.
How do you think is the optimal way for me to like wrangle with a project like that?
The things that when you've only got a few more days to send, you want to optimize the quality of every
Yeah.
and make sure every time you're on that route, you don't come down until you've learned something new.
I clipped the other one.
Yeah.
I'm super proud. I wasn't sure that was going to happen. And as soon as I hit that jug, I was just like, I'm not coming off, there's no way. The crag would have to fall down for me to let go. Oh. My mindset today was so much better. Like, I really found a way to take the pressure off and just be like, it's our last day climbing, it's such a beautiful day, the sun's out, I just want to enjoy it. Like, I just want to have a good time on our last day climbing, and I did. So the sun is the cherry.
Wow, what a day.
For an activity as purposeless as it is, really, the longer I climb, the more I learn that climbing always has something to teach me, and never has that been clearer to me than at the end of our time in Greece. I thought I had a really robust understanding that you can't have the good parts of climbing, the satisfying parts of climbing, without some of the more challenging parts. But I think over the course of the 60 days and then our time in Greece, some kind of deeper set beliefs and maybe insecurities came to the fore that I really wasn't expecting. I think making every mistake in the sport climbing playbook, certainly the sport climbing mindset playbook, taught me that climbing really does demand time and patience and humbling yourself on occasion. And in climbing and in life, patience and composure and humility can't be underestimated. And maybe bullying yourself through challenges can't really be claimed as resilience. So this project wasn't the biggest climbing achievement of all time by any stretch of the imagination, but in the story of my climbing, I really do think Owl Flash taught me that the relationship that I have with myself and the relationship I have with climbing kind of can't be separated, and that for both to be healthy, each kind of demands a compassionate outlook and maintenance. Climbing is such a cerebral sport, and it can be pretty emotionally up and down, especially when we start to attach things like pride and self-worth and confidence to our climbing performances. For me, at its best, climbing is more a collection of the smaller wins and moments and satisfactions that add up to something like fulfillment, and that bigger fulfillment is so often worth the struggle that it takes to get there, in whatever form that struggle takes.